Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Todd Clint's SharePoint podcast number 354, recorded live September 18th, 2017. I am honored to be your host, Todd Clint, bringing another weekly podcast to you, and it wouldn't be the same without that guy, Shane Young. Tell him about yourself, Shane.
Hi, my name is Shane, and I am not wearing a blue shirt this week. Todd is not wearing a blue shirt this week.
I'm not wearing a blue shirt up top. The camera can only see me from like the nipples down, so that's all I'm saying.
Well, I was just assuming you're wearing like one of those blue, I don't know the right word for them, tank tops underneath it, you know. I was going to call it something else, but that's inappropriate these days too. So I assumed you're wearing a blue undershirt. That's the appropriate word.
Undershirt, yes, that's exactly. Yep. So you can reach me on the internet. I'm at Todd Clint everywhere. Todd Clint on LinkedIn and all that. Todd at toddclint.com. Shane, how can they get a hold of you?
Hit me up at the old Bold Zebras over there, Shane.Young at boldzebras.com. You can get me on my award-winning, fabulous YouTube channel, Shane Young Cloud, and you can always tweet me at Shane's Cows.
Oh, what awards have you won?
YouTube channel most likely to kick Todd's YouTube channel's butt.
Yeah, a lot of competition there, sadly.
Let's see, what else did I win? Oh yeah, #1 PowerShell video in the universe.
That's true. I can't believe it's been months now, or if somebody goes to YouTube and types PowerShell, your ugly mug comes up. I'm offended beyond. I want to, like, if there's an abuse button, I want to report it. It is.
You should report the video.
Oh, good lord.
It's it's like 8 of the top 10 or something. I mean, it's you can't get away from it. You can't throw a dead cat without hitting a Shane video. It's very sad.
It is horrible. So for production notes, speaking of PowerShell, I was 2 episodes behind last week, but thanks to the automation of PowerShell, I'm all caught up. Really made some great strides. Part of that was just, the shame that I felt Shane was writing some fancy, cool PowerShell scripts, and I was not. So I went through and refactored, throwing that in there, all my automation scripts for the podcast, and so that's gotten me all caught up pretty quickly. A few more things I need to add, little tweaks I can do, but that's really helped a whole bunch. So
kudos to PowerShell. Not you.
Where would life be without PowerShell?
I don't know.
On to topics. So Shane has to leave in 30 minutes. We have a hard stop, so we're going to be rolling through here as quickly as we can. I apologize for that.
Apologize or say they're welcome, because they probably only want this to be like a 10-minute show. So
exactly.
Like, go faster, guys.
If you're doing this at three times speed with your podcast app, you're going to get your 10-minute show.
There you go.
For topics this next week, I will be at Ignite, and I will be doing this podcast live from Ignite. And I had a meeting last week with the podcasting folks at Ignite, and if there's ever been any doubt what a pathetic, amateurish attempt at podcasting this show is, it was just brought into laser focus last week as I was talking to the podcasting professionals at Ignite. It was embarrassing. They're like, do you have one of these, and how do you do this? And I'm like, I don't even know what those words mean. I got a webcam.
Some crappy XSplit that never works.
Yep. I added all my files in a text editor. What? So we'll see. They were very understanding, not nearly as condescending as I probably deserved. I'll have to take my SingStar mics down with me so that I feel at home.
Will they? Are they going to be there at the show when you're doing it?
Yeah. It was the people that will be trying to get that all done. So, and I got to talk to you at some point about how we're going to get you in there. And oh my goodness. Yeah.
So I think, though, the important thing here is, regardless of how well the show turns out, you need to take some extra lunch money, go buy those people some lunch, and be like, all right, tell us how to make our show actually work. Yeah, might be a good investment of the show resources. Our show budget of millions of dollars.
Yes, that's
coming.
Spend
20 of it on McDonald's.
Coming out of your YouTube funds. So I think the equipment and all. They have I don't think they could. I think their advice to me would be one word: stop. I think that would be their advice to me. I think that would be it. But we're going to do the best we can. I'll be there. Shane will be coming in from parts unknown via the internet. They assure me that they can do that.
Well, it's trivial for professionals.
Yeah, yep. So we're going to be there, but I'm going to be at Ignite the rest of the week. So when I get this thing pushed out, hopefully you hear it before you get to Ignite. Come find me. I'm doing the podcast at the podcasting thing at 5 o'clock. Eastern time for Orlando. Add it, go to my Ignite or my.ignite or whatever it is, myignite.microsoft.com. You can add it there as a session, and then you can do that. I'm going to be doing a session with Jason Himmelstein on Thursday at 2:30, 2:45. Otherwise, just wandering around being a general pain in people's butt. So email me, Todd at toddclint.com, if you want to get hooked up. I'm happy to let you buy me lunch or something. So,
So kind of you. So kind of you.
I'm all about other people. I'm a hell of a guy. There's no.
You are. All right. On to number B. What Feature Pack 2 for SharePoint Server 2016 has become available. Todd, how does this make you feel?
I need one of those meh emoticons right here. So the September patches came out, Patch Tuesday, and the September 2017 patch for SharePoint 2016 has a nickname. Its friends call it Feature Pack 2. And this is fulfilling that promise that Jeff Teeper made us a year and a half ago, May of 2016, when it came out. He said they were going to be updating the features of the on-prem server with feature packs. And they've done it twice now. Feature Pack 2 is out. Unfortunately, this is kind of a non-story because Feature Pack 2 really only adds the SPFX stuff for developers, the new developer framework. And even not all of that, if I understand it correctly. So kind of, I mean, I would like to get excited about these things. You know how I am about patches. I get super excited about patches. I run right out and update the site and all that. But there's just not a lot in here that I've seen for admins to get excited about.
Yeah, Feature Pack 2, the Deuce. I mean, right? It seems like the appropriate name to me.
Yep. And I love how when you go to the webpage on blogs.technet.com, and you can find that in the show notes, and it's going to be in the chat room and all that. But they've got a whole list of features that are in Feature Pack 2. And right above it is the heading that says, including all the features that came in Feature Pack 1. And the list is all the list of Feature Pack 1 things. You know, the action logging and the min roll changes and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, but again, I don't want to seem ungrateful. On-prem SharePoint server has gotten 10 times more attention than I 3 years ago would have thought it would be getting at this point. So kudos to them for keeping that up. But this one is probably not as big a deal as I thought it would be.
Yeah, and I mean, and the SharePoint framework for the developers is a big deal, right? They're excited about that because if they're, especially the ones who are doing hybrid, they're already developing against the SharePoint framework kind of out in the cloud for SharePoint Online. So this is allowing them to kind of translate. And as you said, it's not a one-for-one match, but it's at least letting them kind of get the same conceptual movement there. So maybe a little bigger deal for them, but us admins, there's literally nothing other than another patch to install.
Yeah, and something we haven't talked about, the July and August patches for 2016 had a bug in them, had a regression. You can't create a new secure store service app with when you install the July or August patch. I have not tested September to see if that is fixed yet. So for admins, not only is there not anything new, it might actually break things. So for a customer this week, I'm installing a 2016 farm, and I put the June 2017 patch on it because as far as I know, it is the latest patch without any regressions.
Yeah. Well, you know, and speaking of Feature Pack 1, or Feature Packs in general, but I made a video on that, so how to install Feature Pack 1 for 2016. It got 420 views in the last 6 months or whatever, so let's just go ahead and say it's safe to say I'm not making one for how to install Feature Pack 2.
Probably don't have time with all your PowerShell videos you're making.
Well, you know, PowerShell videos make money. SharePoint videos currently do not make money.
Cost you money, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So anyway, if you have any exposure to Feature Pack 2 or anything, if you've installed it, go ahead and shout out to us and let us know what you found out.
Yeah.
Speaking of patches, last week we talked about the Equifax breach. And for those that have been living under a rock and have no power, though that's probably not a great joke to be making right now, but one of the three credit evaluation companies here in the United States, Equifax, got breached back in July, and they announced back in May. They announced that a couple weeks ago, 140 million Americans' records were in that breach. So we're talking names, addresses, social security numbers, all that kind of stuff. Biggest breach ever, horrible thing. And so last week we talked about it in episode 353, and we made fun of them and complained about them and all that. In the time since then, more information has come out, and turns out the breach was all because Equifax had not patched an application. And the patch for this application, it was an Apache Struts, I think it was called, which is an application framework. Patch came out in March. The breach happened in May, and they had not patched it in that 2-month period. So the non-computer folk world were all, of course, up in arms. How did they not install this patch? It had been out 2 months. These people are terrible, blah, blah, blah. I agree they're terrible. There are a lot of places where Equifax made a whole lot of mistakes. I'm not defending any of that. But as a guy who's patched a lot of applications in the last 10 years, I completely understand how a 2-month-old patch has not been installed yet. Especially when you read that patch. So SharePoint patches, we know, you can't uninstall. So if you install the March SharePoint patch and it breaks your farm, you're broken. You can't uninstall it. You got to wipe your servers. You got to restore from backups. You got to rebuild everything. That's downtime, horrible stuff. This patch actually required you to recompile applications, all of your applications that use this framework. I mean, it was like 10 times worse than any SharePoint patch that we've ever installed. And then you can't uninstall it. So they had not had any time to test their application, test their install process, test any of that. And when the patch dropped in March, they were told that there were 0-day exploits out there for it, which meant the day that, there were already bad guys out there using it. But still, had they put that patch on in the middle of March and completely busted their site, we'd all be screaming at them for that. Mm-hmm. And so while I think Equifax sucks, I think the whole credit situation, the fact that because of a breach to their site, we have to pay them to freeze our credit so that we don't get screwed, indefensible. But this very small sliver, I get. I'm empathetic, I guess.
Yeah, no, I've been part of, so I've helped some startups before that had to bring some old code back to life, and they were on Java, Java, blah 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 blah, this version, and their code was written in this version, and you're talking massive projects sometimes to bridge those gaps, and you're exactly right. If they just threw the patch on today, the world's on fire, you got to patch it right now, they would have taken the whole system down. We've been just as mad.
Yeah, and how many of those patches come out? So it wasn't like there was, had they dropped that patch on as soon as it came out, that would have implied that they had that process in place, and they did that with every patch. Every patch that came out that had an exploit, they just dropped. So just imagine all of those patches, what the potential, downtime and all that would have been if that were their process. So long story short, Equifax still sucks, but for this particular thing, so you brought up the example, after some poking around, some people discovered that the admin password for some database stuff in Argentina was admin. So
their fancy Netgear routers are still running, the standard blank password. Yeah, the normal stuff.
Yeah, and another thing they've been getting a lot of hell about is that their chief security officer, and I forget her name, that her education, her degree was in music. And everybody's like, well, of course they got hacked. Their CSO's degree is in music. How many years has somebody been able to get a degree in computer security? 2, 3, 5, something like that. And so I thought that was a little unfair also.
I think that's ridiculous, right? Because the other thing most all of us that know that went to college and graduated, right? What does your degree actually teach you about the thing you need to learn?
Yeah,
nothing.
It's very tangential. One of my friends is fond of saying that a college degree is nothing but a measure of tenacity and a pedigree. It's just a thing that you can compare to somebody. Oh, you went to Iowa State. I went to Iowa State. That kind of thing. And I don't know that I completely believe that, but I don't hold it against them that this person had a music degree.
Yeah, Of all the things I was upset about, the fact that she had a music degree was not on the list.
Nope. And she's since retired, and somebody else, like the CIO or somebody else, retired.
Yeah, that'll happen. You get HR comes by and tells you, here's your retirement paperwork, and you're like, I don't understand. They're like, this is your retirement paperwork, and just kind of keep pushing it until you sign it.
Yeah. So it's been a big mess, and it's going to keep being a mess. And the problem with this is, I think we talked about this last week. This is one of those things where we're not going to see the badness about this right away, because my Social Security number is never going to change. My name is never going to change. So until I die, all that information those guys got in May they're going to be able to screw me with it till the day I die.
Sometimes the fact I have to leave things alone is very difficult for me.
This is not the After Dark show, so
It is not. And what's even worse though. So there was some other news today, right? You ready to roll?
Yeah, bad week for computer security. Holy cow!
Yeah. So unfortunately, we found out that maybe they were using the incredibly popular antivirus software called CCleaner. It's one of those clean up your system, make sure the bad guys aren't there.
Yeah, and so initially that C was crap. So it was one of these things that decrapified your computer, cleaned out the registry and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it turns out that it was infected with malware a few months ago, and 2.27 million people downloaded their software to clean their system and quietly installed a Trojan on it because the bad guys had hacked their source server and added some nefarious code. So it's just a bad day for the security world. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, that was, and they just got bought by somebody. I can't remember who. So they used to be their own company, and then they were acquired by Avast. So Avast has been one of the main antivirus, vendors for a decade, something like that. And yeah, so the software that you install to get the bad guys out of your system and decrapify it was actually installing a Trojan, so bad guys could get in and do whatever stuff. And millions of people installed that, and it's just.
Yeah, they say that he got it all cleaned up before anyone was exploited, but like your social security number, you just really don't know until you're dead that you didn't get hacked by that particular thing.
Yeah, and this one and one that we've talked about in the past, Kaspersky, scare me even more than like Equifax getting hacked, because and I think I've told this story before, and if not, it's one of my favorites. Kaspersky got hacked, and they are 100% a security company. That is all they do, and they're one of the best at that, and they got hacked. And when I see that, and I read the story about how long it took them to catch it and to unravel it and to figure it out, and I'm thinking, what chance do the rest of us have? I mean, we just don't. And same with this. This is Avast. They've been doing antivirus and anti-malware stuff forever, and it's all they do. And they got caught. They left their pants down, and they got caught. And what chance do the rest of us have?
Yeah. Yeah, and and old Dave Aykroyd was like, well, when did CCleaner become a AV software, right? And I just pointed out to him about the time that Avast bought him, and a marketing person showed up and said, well, we can't call it crap cleaner anymore. We're going to call it CCleaner, and we're going to call it antivirus protection software because we're marketing, and that's what we do.
Yeah, I think they'd renamed it from crap cleaner a while back before they got acquired. But back in the day, it's been around forever. And when I first installed it, long time ago, that was what it was. But yeah, bad day. And then it's as if you just can't trust anybody. You can't trust the security folks. Then I read, my faith in humanity just dropped even further. I was browsing around and I read that Pirate Bay, everybody's favorite, whatever Pirate Bay is, legitimate search engine. I don't know what they are. They're a political party in Sweden, whatever they are. They're testing the ability to mine. I don't think it's actually Bitcoin. I thought it was some other coin. But mine that in JavaScript in the Pirate Bay web page. So when you go to the Pirate Bay and leave the web page open, it's actually using the CPU cycles on your machine to mine e-currency for them. And they think that it will end up replacing the revenue they get from ads.
I got nothing, right? I mean, when I read that article, I was just like, it's kind of genius, right? Because think about how often we're used to the browser just spiking our CPU because it's a stupid website. Who would even think, oh yeah, right now they're mining just a sliver of some currency to fund the site, whether they told you or not. I mean, now it makes you wonder, maybe that's how Amazon makes all that money. It's not really selling stuff. Maybe Amazon.com is really doing it because it's in the.
Yeah, and I don't know. So I don't know what about that is the most offensive. Because I don't know if you ever did it, but back in the day, I used to use like the protein folding thing, screensavers, and SETI at home, and all those kind of things. And while it is not truly the case, it seemed like it was free to me. So I could run SETI at night, and it cost me electricity, but I didn't really think about that at the time. So if I could help my favorite websites by doing things like that, probably would be okay, but I don't know. It's a weird thing. But the fact that they did it without telling anybody, I think is what kind of puts it over the edge. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, right? Because no one ever did think about, I'm just running this SETI thing on my work computer. It's no big deal. And in fact, it was stealing, right? It was stealing, running up the electric bill to push that stuff out there. And that's all Bitcoin mining is. If I wanted to take this mega awesome computer of mine and put on the Bitcoin mining software and let it go to town, then it's just burning my electricity to convert into currency, hopefully. So
yeah, and I didn't really think much about that because again, those numbers are so crazy to think about. But I got a device a long time ago called a kilowatt, And it's a little amp meter that you put in line with a plug-in, and it just tells you how much electricity a thing's using. And it was absolutely very obvious how much electricity my computer was using when the CPU would spike. I mean, I could see the numbers on that double, and I'm like, yeah. I mean, I never really did the math to find out what it would cost me, but it very clearly was taking way more electricity once the CPU spiked. Yeah. And that's what these things do. They're using CPU. So for all of you out there that use Pirate Bay for whatever it is that you use, be careful leaving that web page open for whatever it is that web page does.
How we doing? We're doing good. We got a few minutes here left.
We got 10 minutes, yeah. So what else you been working on?
So last Tuesday, I decided to explore the fanciful world of doing Power BI, right? We've talked about Power BI a couple other times, and the BI reports I'd created using SharePoint Online data to then publish it back to SharePoint. Fun little circle.
Yeah.
But turned out, I was like, well, let's figure out this hybrid thing, right? There's this on-prem data gateway. So last week I sat down, I made a SQL database, had 3 columns of like name and color and weight or something very complicated. Yeah. And put those into a SQL database in my on-prem environment. And I set out to connect that to Power BI out in the cloud. Turns out that installing the on-prem data gateway is about as brain dead dumb as it gets.
Excellent.
It was like 5 clicks and stuff just works. And of course, with Microsoft, the documentation was old, which was good though, because documentation had all these extra steps. Now, once you install it, it just registers itself with your instance out there on the web. I mean, it was so fast and easy. And not only did it enable me to do the Power BI stuff, which I was after, but I actually read the screens that were flashing by. Imagine that. And it also connects PowerApps, Microsoft Flow, and Azure Logic Apps. So that one connector, do you believe this? Microsoft built a product that one connector powers multiple products instead of us having to have a connector for every product. My mind was blown.
That is atypical for Microsoft for multiple groups to be talking and leveraging the same technology.
I couldn't believe it. So I set it up, I installed that, and I mean, sure enough, I went out to my Power BI builder, said connect to the SQL server, here's the database name, and it's like, oh, there it is, no problem. I published it and it said, hey, I can't get to that. Do you need to connect to Gateway? Well, I do. I checked the box for that gateway, and there's my data.
Yeah, and you were able to write a Power App that enabled you to update that SQL database with your phone.
Yeah, so yeah, the follow-on to that, so that's not in the video. So the video just stopped at taking Power BI on-prem with on-prem data and publishing it to SharePoint Online. But so now, jumping ahead, what I'm planning on working, or what I've been working on for the last week, is figuring out now how do I put PowerApps into the fold. And it turns out that with PowerApps, same thing. My gateway just showed up. I'm like, oh, there it is. Clicked on it, and boom, I was reading that data. So it's pretty powerful solution. I know I'm late to the game. This stuff's been out for a while. It's still a little buggy though, so I don't feel bad, but it works.
Yeah, and so then that's all very cool stuff, especially for guys like you and I that can't develop and can't program and do those things. It's a pretty easy way to get in there. But even after you started talking about it, I immediately started thinking about ways that I could use that. I've got a couple of things that I need to rejigger, but I might be able to leverage some of that to give a nice interface to some ugly SQL backend thingy.
And that's exactly what my thought was, right? So what I've got now is I've created a more complicated backend SQL database, which is way above my paid grade. I had to learn a lot about SQL to build that database structure. But so now I have a Power App, and it's just like Microsoft Word, right? Drag and drop, boo, 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 boo. And so with the Power App running on my phone, I can create a maintenance request for a tractor, right? This is for a fictitious construction company. Create the request. That request will then go back to my on-prem SQL database. And then I've connected to that with Power BI, and so then I have metrics about the maintenance incidents, and I've published that to my SharePoint Online environment. I've built a full-on solution in a matter of hours of work, and I had no idea how to build any of that. I mean, it's a fully functional app. It's got pictures. It's pretty cool.
Excellent. So yeah, so Shane's got some. So what's your YouTube channel again?
Shane Young Cloud.
So you can find out all about it there, or go to boldzebras.com, and Shane can teach you up on that, do some consulting, things like that.
Fancy. All right, does that get us into shameless promotion time?
That does. I did want to mention one other thing. It didn't come in here, and it's not in the notes. I've been fishing around at this for a while, but last week I officially signed up for a marathon. So in less than a month, I will have run 26.2 miles at once on purpose. So
another chance for us to lose our dear friend Todd Clint. I'm very sad about this.
So the race is Sunday, October 15th. So potentially the podcast that happens on Monday, October 16th might be light on Todd and heavy on Shane as I'm laying someplace. So it shouldn't be too bad. I've been running a bunch lately, and I was in pretty good shape. I've done a couple of 20-mile runs, and I did a 20-mile run Saturday morning. It was fine. So I think I'll probably be able to make it. But that's something that I've been able to. I've wanted to be able to say that I've run a marathon for a really long time. So I'm actually going to do it now as opposed to just lying about it. So that's been kind of a fun thing. So.
Very cool. I'm excited for you. I've done some halves and I've done the relays for the fulls, but I have not found the will to do a full yet.
Yep. So I did a half this summer, and I've done a half amount of running many times. So we'll see. We'll see how that does. So yeah. Exciting stuff. All right, shameless self-promotion. I've already talked about this. Microsoft Ignite is next week. I fly out Saturday morning for that. So that is the 25th through 29th. You can go to ignite.microsoft.com, find out all about it. If you are registered for Ignite, please go in, add my sessions to your schedule, whether you're going to go or not. So we had a meeting last week with some of the people that set that up, and there's a whole bunch of metrics that get measured by how many people register for your session. So whether you're going to go or not, sign up for it, and my feelings won't be hurt. But again, you can sign up for my podcast, which is Monday at 5, or my session on SharePoint 2016 migration, that is Thursday afternoon with Jason at 2-ish. And then again, I'm just going to be running around doing other stuff all week, doing that. And then in November 8th and 9th, is the Thrive Conference in Slovenia, and I'll be talking, I think, about PowerShell and Azure Active Directory and some other stuff there. So if you're going to be in Eastern Europe, going to be in that area in November, sign up for that, and that's at thriveconf.com, I think, is the URL for that. Thriveconf.com. And then Shane, what are you going to be doing?
So for all you lucky people who live in Southern California, not only do you get wonderful weather year-round,
yes,
but December 5th, the rest of us are freezing to death. It'll be 75 there. I will be in Southern California or remotely to do a presentation on PowerShell for the local user group. So I'll be December 5th at 6:30 p.m. There's a link to sign up for that. And hopefully you can show up and listen to me talk about lots of fun things, AKA PowerShell.
Yeah, and so a couple of questions. What aspect of PowerShell will you be talking about?
How to get PowerShell in Office 365 to play nice. So we're talking about the Microsoft commandlets, we'll talk about the patterns of practice commandlets, we'll talk about how wonderful I am. It'll be a great time.
Yeah, very, very short topic there. And can people watch it remotely?
I don't believe so. I need to find out, but I don't think that it's remotable, but I will inquire about said fact.
Yeah, that's becoming more and more common. So
it is.
So thanks to those guys for letting you in. But
yeah.
All right, folks, we finished with 2 minutes to spare. It just goes to show if we're motivated properly, we can wrap this thing up in a reasonable amount of time. So Shane's got to go. Folks in the chat room, stick around. I will be chatting with you for a while. Next week, again, big one from Ignite. It will be either super cool or just embarrassing as all hell for me because of how unprofessional I am. But we'll see there. And again, if you're going to be at Ignite, come find me. Anybody who's met me before knows I'm a super friendly guy, so come find me, say hey, I'd love to chat. But I will see you guys all next week.
Toodles.